I say that nations don't weaken because of their past, because nations will always come back. In 1990, 91, our foreign reserves were less than what Sri Lanka's are right now. We had, our foreign reserves right now are around $580 billion. In 1991, I mean, there are many economists out here who know it was 0.6 billion. $600 million, that's all our foreign reserves are. We mortgaged our gold, we loaded our gold into ships and set them to sail for the Bank of England. You know it. But we are now, 30 years later, we are prosperous. So nations recover, they don't weaken because of their past. But I told you about when people profess those ideologies, when they are taught wrong history, when the history is airbrushed, when they still think all those monsters are actually heroes, that is when they take and implement policies that weaken the nation. So it was, and of course when Congress came, it was complete reign of psychophancy. Nehru, I told you all those things that he banned, jailed editor, none of that new. Of course it was through Nehru's command itself. After that Indira came, emergency. Incidentally, there are a lot of JNU professors who have airbrushed even emergency. There was Khushwant Singh, who said why I support emergency. Khushwant Singh was the first one to advocate a ban on Salman Rushdie's book. And if you remember, when that intolerance whole facade was going on, they held a Khushwant Singh literary festival in which they talked about the intolerance and the emergency that is happening around India.
So, sir, you mentioned something about this whole distortion or this effect shaping policy, but really, how does that shape future policies? Any examples where you think some of our policies itself have got therefore badly created, and how would we correct that going forward?
So absolutely, to give you an example, Shah Bano case is an absolutely apt the appeasement that happened. And socially, and I'm not talking economically, socially this nation has suffered a lot because of that single act of Rajiv Gandhi. Now that was based on appeasement. That was based on let me appease, and that appeasement goes on. It's institutionalized now. Just yesterday, the Chief Minister of Telangana has given 17 crores for 2-month payments to muezzins and mullahs from the taxpayers' money, from the money that he earns by controlling Hindu temples. So that appeasement goes on. But closer to non-societal, non-religious thing, I gave you the example of opposing even green revolution, opposing liberalization, opposing the Indo-US nuclear deal. Now that is all happening because you believe in that philosophy. Why is when people know that socialism is evil, socialism will not work, socialism will make you bankrupt. As Margaret Thatcher famously said, that socialism only works as long as till the time you run out of other person's money. When you know this philosophy doesn't work and you still carry on with it, that is what is weakening the nation. When you know that farm laws were good for you, that India needed those farm laws to catapult itself to a middle income economy. When you knew that all those 3 farm laws almost verbatim were there in the Congress manifesto. In fact, Modi did not go even as far as Congress wanted to go. Congress wanted to remove APMCs. Modi said, no, I'm giving you a choice. When they are in your manifesto and then Congress backtracks and says, look, these are blank laws, what can you do? That is what is doing.
So, and you, like you mentioned, on your left side is your JNU, but a question from the audience saying, and I think in the end you alluded to how we should try and create a fairly open and sort of equal-sided. So how do we establish diversity of opinions, especially in our colleges, and should the state play a role in that?
So yes, JNU, firstly I'm very lucky because no one cares about the scientists. And thankfully we are on the other side of the Iron Curtain in JNU. So that's, the Iron Curtain extends from the East Gate to the Ganga Dhaba. So there's we are on this side, so we are safe. No, but to be honest with you, all opinions are welcome They must happen, especially in a university. But we know that it is the left that doesn't want those opinions, because they know it stems from this, is almost a psychiatric term, and Dr. Harsh is there, he knows there's something called the guilt of inadequacy. When you know something is not working, when you believe in something that is plainly wrong, and you continue to believe in it, then you are embarrassed by it. A hate builds up against people who don't believe it in anymore. So, don't communists know that every nation that has professed communism throughout human history has been totally destroyed? Don't they know it? Haven't they seen it? USSR, Venezuela, China, until it switched to a different economy, and still you have communists. So I'm not there to say you cannot be a communist. It's your mind, it's your brain, and you go ahead. But the fact of the matter is, they will not allow for it's like a religion. Why did Galileo have to apologize? He had to apologize because those other people there, the church, they feared him. They said, look, if tomorrow what he says becomes the truth, then people will stop following us. So it is out of fear, and that is out of guilt of inadequacy. And that the left has mastered. So that is why it wants to hide the truth. Because if it tells the truth, then people will be informed, they will make their choice, and they would no longer be communists. Thankfully now even Nota gets more votes than communists. So, so slowly things are improving. But still you have communists, and they're very clever because they know this. They're no longer concerned with, they know they're not going to get to power ever again in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, but they have their fiefdoms and they're protecting it. And those fiefdoms are universities. Those fiefdoms are knowledge centers, and that is this government doesn't realize that power is not in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Power is in where the education is. That is where the power is.
Coming to that, two questions, and again from the audience. The first one, and again these are a bit saying what will you do in the future. So, one, history, the way it is taught and where is it taught, and the fact that we've just put in some section called liberal arts. And second, the revision of this textbooks. How do we address this issue, and what are your suggestions of going forward?
So the textbook revision, first of all, it's and I refuse to believe those who say, look, 8 years is too small a time, we have to constitute a committee. 8 साल में committee नहीं बनी, यहाँ तो we are a nation of committees. How can you say we dream of